There we go. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing, We Gather Together. We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in our journey, confirming, committing our passage to be our true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care and hope, then we are free.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester, where through spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves, we open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. My name is Reverend AJ. I use he and him pronouns. I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation. This morning, I am very excited to welcome to our pulpit and introduce to you all the person who was my minister when I was growing up as a Unitarian Universalist, Reverend Mary Catherine Morin. So it's sort of her fault that I'm here in the first place, wearing a stole and up in front of you. So take from that what you will. But also joining us in worship leadership is Chris, our worship associate, Amanda, director of religious education, Pablo, our AV team making all the technology possible, and of course, all of you. It wouldn't be Sunday morning without the gathered community. If you are new here or new-ish, please stop by the welcome desk and meet with our hospitality team to get to know us a little bit better and get connected around here. If this is one of your first times, please come join us between services after this first service for Connections. We have a bunch of different small group programs, but one of them directed at newcomers is our Inquirers series, where you can ask questions, inquire, and learn more about various topics about our faith and our church community here. So that meets right around the corner, and I'll remind you at the end of the service about that. If you are here because you are going through a hard time or you're worried about somebody else who is, please don't hesitate to reach out to our pastoral care team. We've got Steve in the back, one of our lay pastoral care associates. He's wearing a beige and rainbow stole. You can connect with him during or after the service. One announcement for this week is something called the MINS Lecture. That's M-I-N-N-S, not men's lecture, but it's the MINS Lecture. It's a UU history, theology, all sorts of things lecture. There's a series of 3. We are hosting the second one here in 2 weeks on May 8th. So please come here May 8th, 7 p.m. We'll have our very own Reverend Lisa Friedman, who grew up in our congregation here, presenting the second MINS lecture. But the first one is this Wednesday, April 30th at 8 p.m. It'll be live streamed. It's on the internet, but it is in Unity, St. Paul, Minnesota, I believe is where it's the church that it is streaming from. And the title for the series is Deconstructing Mythologies of Unitarian Anti-Racism. So I think it'll prove to be a very enlightening, perhaps somewhat challenging, but very robust lecture series. So we're excited to host Reverend Lisa in a few weeks. Now, I invite you to center yourself for worship, whether that involves putting your feet grounded on the floor, taking a breath, doing whatever you need to do to arrive and be present for worship. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral and contemporary lands now stand. I'm going to invite Chris to light our chalice this morning as we share in the unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. we gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit one more time as we sing Everything is Possible. Now, I think we've sung this before, but just in case, I'll sing it and have you sing it back. Everything is possible, this I know, this I know, this I know. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Together. Everything is possible, this I know, this I know, this I know. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Now listen to this. Bountiful and free, where I'm supposed to be. And then we know this part. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. So bountiful. Bountiful and free, where I'm supposed to be. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Let's go from the beginning. And everything is possible, this I know. This I know, this I know. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Bountiful and free, where I'm supposed to be. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. One more time. Everything is possible, this I know, this I know, this I know. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Bountiful and free, where I'm supposed to be. Everything is possible, this I know. I'm bountiful and free. Thank you.
Good luck getting that out of your head. My name is Chris Dorso, he, him pronouns, and as an apostrophed American, I have dealt with mispronunciations of my name for, nigh on 49 years or thereabouts. So I'm always very conscious of it. And as many of you know, I am no stranger to a microphone. And when a lot less hair tonight. Inside joke, you had to be there. One of my first jobs in higher ed, I was working at SUNY Old Westbury, which is a small liberal arts college in Nassau County on Long Island. And they asked me to do the public address announcing for our home basketball games, which I loved doing. And one of the schools that was in our conference at the time was Yeshiva University, which is a very small Orthodox Jewish school in New York City. And they weren't terribly good at basketball, as you might imagine, but they were one of our favorite teams to play because we weren't very good either, as it turned out. And so when Yeshiva came into town, when all the teams came into town, one of the things that was very important to me was to make sure I got opposing teams' names correctly as I'm announcing fouls and points and all of those kinds of things. And so I'd always talk with one of the assistant coaches before the games, and there was usually at least a name or two on most of the visiting rosters that I wanted to figure out. Many of the yeshiva players had very Orthodox Jewish Hebrew names. And so I carefully went through the assistant coach with making sure I got all of the pronunciations correct so that when they scored points, we could announce them properly. And so after the game, the head coach actually came over to me at the scorer's table and thanked me and said, "You know, you're the only school we ever go to that actually tries to get this right." And that felt kind of special to me, and ultimately is why we come to church, because we don't always get it right every time, but we know that, particularly for communities that are different from us, we need to make sure that we listen to understand, to make sure that we get it right, and make sure we honor their humanity, and the way that the interdependent web truly includes all of us. So I'm very, very glad you're all here. If you would, take a quick moment to introduce yourself to your neighbor, and this is a great opportunity to make sure you're pronouncing their name correctly. Amanda will bring us back in a minute.
As always, it's so good to see you connecting so heartily with each other. So I, as AJ reminded you, I'm Amanda Graff, and I am the Director of Religious Education. Particularly pertinent piece of information this morning because of the, not story, but sort of a message I have for you, and then I'll introduce a story that is related to Mary Catherine's visit with us today about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and the founding of that. But first, I am going to start by greeting you, and young and old and in between, the congregation of First Unitarian Rochester. And the story I have to share this morning is one that is actually currently unfolding. It's being told right here and now within these very walls. A new chapter is written each week, and as we gather together seeking meaning, joy, comfort, beauty, and hope. It is the story of us, all of us together, as of the Unitarian Universalist community, larger than us and also here within these walls. It's a story that reaches back hundreds of years into the past and hopefully for many more hundreds of years into the future. And I am so grateful to be a part of this story in our larger association and here with you for the past 2 years as your Director of Religious Education. It's been a real joy getting to know you, and I'm so pleased with what we've been able to do together so far. The religious education program is growing in exciting ways. We've welcomed many new families this year. The nursery in particular has about tripled in size, and we have 10 to 15 children pretty regularly attending youth group compared to just a few when I started a couple of years ago. So that's so exciting. You probably remember the incredible service that the youth did a couple weeks back, so it's awesome to have them in numbers with us. We're coming back. We're coming back from COVID. We're coming back. Families are coming back who haven't been with us for a number of years. New babies are being born. New families are seeking out our community as a place of refuge in these trying times. So one thing that I love that we have done together, you and me and Sarah and the staff have all done together, is bring children into worship every week. So they're not here in big numbers in this service, but in the second service, they're here every week in large numbers. All the kids come, and it is wonderful to have them held in the loving embrace of this community, in this sanctuary, to join their voices together with our voices in laughter and prayer. It is a joy to see them with you and you with them. And thank you for welcoming them so enthusiastically. So this Sunday is the beginning of our volunteer recruitment drive for next year's religious education program. I know it seems early, but it's a big program. There are many roles to fill and many programs that we run. In large part, the program is supported by parents of the children who attend. All families volunteer at least 8 to 10 Sundays a year, which is about 16 to 20 hours, and they do a really wonderful job showing up for that. But today and over the coming weeks, I want to ask you to consider deepening your commitment or continuing your commitment for some of you who I look out and see have volunteered this year or last year to the children and families of our congregation and to the future, truly, of Unitarian Universalism by signing up to volunteer in RE in this next year. So many of us are looking for a way to make a difference in the world right now, and we want change. We want to help. We want to be part of a living legacy of liberation and hope, and volunteering in RE, investing in the children that are growing up right here with all of you, with us, truly is a significant way of doing that. Please stop by the volunteer recruitment table in the lobby before or after the service today. Well, after now. And over the next couple of weeks. Whether you have a couple of weekends over the summer, or you want to volunteer occasionally throughout the year, or make a more regular commitment of 8 to 10 weeks, we are so happy to help you think about what will be a good fit for you. We want you to be with the children. Whether you're older and your parenting days are past, or you never were a parent, or you're younger and your parenting days are ahead of you, it really will enrich your life to choose to spend some time. Each of us has gifts and wisdom to share with the next generation. Our relationship across the generations are essential and can bring great joy and richness into our lives. And I look forward to talking to you more out there and over the coming weeks. Before I go, I want to cue up another really important Unitarian Universalist story about the founding of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. So here that comes.
Hello. Today I want to tell you a story about how the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, began. It all started over 80 years ago when Unitarians in the United States were watching what was happening in Europe, and they were getting very worried. They were worried because a man named Hitler and the people he was leading, called the Nazis, were becoming very powerful and hurting a lot of people. The Nazis believed some very mean and wrong things. They believed the only people who were any good were people who were just like them. They wanted everyone to be the same as they were, and if you weren't, well, they would kick you out of your house, they would take all of your things, they wouldn't let you work, and eventually, they started killing people who they thought were different from them. Jewish people, gay people, people with disabilities, all of them were targets of the Nazis during this time. It was very scary. What do you think you would do if you saw something like this happening? Would you want to help? Would people in your UU community want to help too? It was the same over 80 years ago. The Unitarians wanted to help people in Europe who were being targeted by the Nazis. So, a Unitarian minister and his wife from Wellesley, Massachusetts, Waitstill and Martha Sharp, went to Europe to see how they could help people there. They found lots of ways to help when they got there, but they had to be creative because the Nazis were always watching, and it would be dangerous if they got caught. The Sharps helped get the paperwork people needed to escape to safer places. Sometimes they would even sneak people past guards wearing disguises. They also helped people, including kids like you, get food and clothing in a time when it was very hard to find both. The Sharps were very brave, but they didn't do this work alone. They worked with people in the Jewish communities in Europe. They worked with the other Unitarians in the United States who sent them money and other supplies so more people could be helped. That is how the Unitarian Service Committee now called UUSC, got started. Today, UUSC still works around the world to help people who are being treated badly find safety and have their human rights respected. We work with migrant communities who fled their homes in Central America and are seeking asylum in the United States. We work with Rohingya Muslims in Burma who are facing inhumane treatment and displacement by their government. We work with people around the world whose home communities are threatened by climate change, and many more. Both back then and today, UUs come together through the UU Service Committee to work with people who need it most. And we will continue to be there to help in the future, because Unitarian Universalists believe in doing what we can to make the world a better and safer place for everyone. Thank you for the ways you help us do this work. We couldn't do it without everyone joining together. Thank you for listening to this story.
Good morning. It's wonderful to see your faces and to share this space with you. I invite you in these next few moments to join me in a time for quiet reflection, for meditation, for prayer. Let's begin by taking deep breaths. Can you take a breath that's the deepest breath you've had an opportunity to take yet today? Receive this gift of breath and life and spirit in the community of these friends and strangers, this community in this room and online who have come together, hearts open and ready to learn and to grow and to serve together. I invite you into a time of silence for our reflections and our meditations and our prayers, and I will close with a poem, a prayer by my colleague, Reverend Laura Martin. Because so much of the world will devastate you, find something to bless. A tree, a child, a woman who is acquainted with sadness. Because every day you will see brokenness, find something to heal. A spot of land, yourself, an animal. Believe in what you can do close up. So much of the world is not just or good or pulling toward the light. Be deliberate in your part. Accept your own incompleteness and go and make blessing and healing and light real as only you can, as only we can. Blessed be. Amen.
We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, bring to mind whatever grief or growth or gratitude is alive within you this morning. And you're invited forward to one of our altar tables to light a candle for that grief, gratitude, or growth. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please simply raise your hand. And I will begin by lighting a candle for Libby Simpson, daughter of Joe Simpson. Libby passed away peacefully last Saturday. To live in hearts that love is not to die. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. Amen. Blessed be.
Our musical meditation today is From You I Receive. Please join in singing. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you. Good morning. Can I have one more? I will be helped by your energy. Good morning. Good morning. I love you. Thank you so much for that help. I'm Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn. I go by Mary Catherine or MK. If you need a pronoun, she, her will do. And I'm really pleased and honored to be here. And I didn't know this would happen until last night, but actually a little bit nervous to be here because I don't want to let AJ down. But I am so grateful for the invitation, and it's such a joy to worship with AJ as one of the ministers. I remember the first time I heard AJ say that he felt a calling to ministry, and I remember how it felt like, of course, that's the right thing. And I'm so glad that you have found AJ and he has found you. And I expect you are as well. AJ brings such a deep authenticity. He brings a really challenging analysis and understanding of our faith and what it calls for from us, and I trust that AJ is going to continue to lead our movement for many years to come. I also loved his Easter sermon. How about you? Right? Awesome. Woo. Life breaks through because that's what life is. I'm also grateful for the invitation to be here and for the invitation for UUSC to be part of, with you, imagining how we live our values in the world so that we can together courageously co-create this world into a place where all people can flourish, all people and our planet can thrive, making blessing and light and healing and justice real in the way only we can. I'm grateful to everyone who's taken part in creating this worship today, and you, as AJ said, without you, nothing, and you are the power and the energy that propels worship every week, and so thank you for being here, whether you are in the room or with us online. It is a blessing to be together. You seem strong. I've known this congregation for more than a few years, and it seems like a really strong and positive time in your life as a congregation. It's such a joy to see that. Rochester needs you to be strong and be a force for good right here, which I know that you are. I hope that after this morning, or perhaps you already do, that after this morning you will consider UUSC a partner with you in being that force for good on a global scale. Thank you for sharing the plate. I won't get a chance to say that later, so I want to say that now. And I want to say a special thank you to those of you who are members of UUSC. I know there are some among you who didn't know what USC is until you heard, and last week you heard a little bit about UUSC. But some of you have been members for a long time, Anybody waving a hand? Thank you so much for your support. Please find these folks, ask them questions about UUSC, why they support. I'm guessing some of you used to support UUSC but have fallen off. Could I get an amen? I don't know. Yeah. I hear it every time I visit a congregation, so I hope this morning will inspire you to become a member again and a supporter. UUSC is a completely independent organization. That's something a lot of people don't know, so we don't get funding from the denomination or from congregations unless they do a Share the Plate, but most of our support comes from people just like you. There's a table outside with a few brochures. Please stop by, say hello. I'm going to do something between services. You'll be able to find me to talk more. AJ will tell you about that. So I hope I'll have the opportunity to meet you and tell you a little more. I got to say, I am especially grateful for this opportunity to be with you now, right? Now that at UUSC, our next crisis response is happening right here in the United States. At UUSC, it's been a gift to feel our interdependence these last months in a new and deeper way through the outreach of our partners around the world in solidarity with us. Like from Juan Jose. Juan Jose is the head of an organization in Guatemala called Pope No. Pope No, for years, has supported particularly children who are returned, deported from the United States back to Guatemala unaccompanied, and Pope No works to reconnect them with families when possible or provide them with the support of community. Juan Jose has been working under repressive and violent conditions for years and years. And on November 6th this year, we got an email from Juan Jose, and he said, hang in there, we're thinking of you. We know this is a tough time. It seems like values are turned upside down. What's going on? We don't understand the hateful rhetoric that is leading the way right now. But remember, he said, the resistance of generations makes us stronger. We're not alone. Today, I will be sharing stories from the incredible work of UUSC partners, and I hope that this will be a reminder of all that is possible for us. A reminder of the power of solidarity in our interdependent world, and an inspiration for your own participation in resisting tyranny and oppression, right here in Rochester and around the globe in partnership with UUSC. First, I want to share a much-loved poem by Marge Percy, The Low Road. It may be familiar to you. It's about interdependence and solidarity, and she begins with a frank reminder, as if we needed one right now, but a frank reminder of what tyrants will do to try to control us. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can... Honestly, I don't want to go on reading her words, her list of horrors. Our minds are full enough with real and anticipated oppression, violence, and hate. And while the context of what is possible is important, what they can do to you, the point of her poem really is about what we can do, what you can do in solidarity. Percy's poem reminds us that it is solidarity that makes possible beloved community. Solidarity makes possible heaven on earth, human rights for all, the full flourishing, and frankly, the survival of our world. I love her dramatic description of the power of solidarity. She continues in part. Two people can keep each other company, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house. eat pie for dinner with no leftovers, and hold a fundraising party. Only takes 6. A dozen make a demonstration, 100 fill a hall, 1,000 have solidarity and their own newsletter, 10,000 power in your own paper, 100,000 your own media, 10 million your own country. It goes on, one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again when they said no. It starts when you say we and know who you mean, and each day it means one more. That part about your own country is kind of seductive right now, isn't it? But to be clear, this isn't only about a country or about politics. The biggest challenge we face is not one leader or one party or one issue or position that fails to recognize the human rights of some people. The biggest challenge we face is that the systems by which our shared life is organized, those systems, politically and economically and socially, the systems by which our lives have been organized are designed on purpose to keep us disconnected, to ensure that we forget our kinship, that we all have worth, that we all belong, and that we only thrive when we thrive together. As political theorist Brian Stout writes in his blog, Building Belonging, all domination systems, whether you call them white supremacy, patriarchy, colonialism, extractive capitalism, all domination systems depend on 3 things to maintain their power. It's really one thing. But 3 things, we'll say: disconnecting us from ourselves and our bodies, disconnecting us from each other and community, and disconnecting us from the land and other living beings. Once we are disconnected and disengaged, we resign ourselves to powerlessness. And really, when we're not connected, we aren't powerful. When we forget our interdependence, that we are kin, when we abandon the possibility of another world and fall into cynicism and despair, we are playing into the hands of tyrants. Our own self-perception of powerlessness is exactly what empire is depending on to survive. We live in the tension that AJ described so powerfully last week between the inevitability of suffering and death and the force of life that breaks through. I think of it also as the tension between our very real finite reality and infinite possibility. And in this season, we are invited to possibility, to the power of life breaking through. We can hear it in the stories of resurrection and the stories of resistance. This congregation, of course, has a rich treasure of stories of resistance from your history. And to your stories, here are just a few from UUSC partners who, in the midst of violence, brutality, and suffering, consistently and stubbornly claim their power and refuse to believe there is nothing more that can be done. They create change. Like Anna Maria Tesfaye. Anna Maria is an Ethiopian-Russian activist who founded Queer Svit, a UUSC partner offering resources and companionship to the queer community that was impacted by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Queer Svit has provided legal support and asylum consultation, travel assistance, and humanitarian aid to more than 1,000 queer people from Ukraine and neighboring countries. I had the privilege of meeting Anne-Marie just a year after she founded Queer Svit, and at that time it was a particularly difficult moment because what happens when there's a crisis is a lot of organizations pay attention at the beginning, and then their support dwindles away. So I met her just a year after the full-scale invasion, and at that moment, UUSC was their only funder. But she is strong and continues to believe that there is more she can do, so she's continued to build up QueerSFIT's capacity to make a difference in the lives of people. The second story I want to share is from an experience I had just this year, this winter, when we visited our partners in Thailand. They're actually partners from Burma, also known as Myanmar. We use Burma because that's the name of the country our partners prefer. And we visited in Thailand and gathered together 15 of our partner organizations for a convening. But while we were there, we also had the opportunity to visit the Karen Women's Organization, a school of the KWO that brings together girls and young women, 18 to 30 years old, some of whom are coming from refugee camps, and helps them become, it's a training ground to help them become organizers, democracy activists, and leaders. We got there actually at the wrong time. We realized that we arrived and they were expecting us much later. And so they weren't quite prepared for our visit. So there was a little bit of awkwardness when we got there. But we settled down and all gathered in a room. There were about 20 students and about 10 of us who were visiting. And we introduced ourselves, went around the room and introduced ourselves, and then there was a really awkward moment of quiet, which made it clear that they really weren't prepared for our visit. I don't often let quiet go too long. In a moment like that, I sometimes jump in to try to fill it. I'm so glad I didn't in that moment, because out of the silence, a young woman, she might have been 19, maybe 20, stood up in the back, clearly unbidden, but she stood up and came to the front of the room, and she told us her story. She told us about growing up in her village and how the military had bombed and destroyed her village, set the cornfields on fire. They had run into the jungle and tried to survive in the jungle, but the military was chasing them with drones. They were always on the move, and her mom really wanted her to get an education, so she sent her to one of the refugee camps where she knew at least she'd have some level of education. And she'd come to the school at KWO from the camp, and she then, after telling her personal story, she gave a really sophisticated analysis of the very complicated situation in Burma, and how inclusive democracy she believes is still possible. And then she told us what she needed from us. It was like as good a TED Talk as I'd ever heard. We all just kind of sat stunned and applauded when she finished, and she went and sat down. A few seconds later, another girl stood and came forward. 3 of them came and told their stories and told us what they needed. And it was such a powerful illustration of the work of UUSC partners around the world in empowering leaders, creating organizers, and building democracy, even in the places that seem so hopeless. Now, as I said, UUSC's next crisis response is developing right here in the United States, which means there is more for us to do, and we are. Immediately after the election, we provided an emergency protection grant to Pink Haven. Anyone know Pink Haven? I'm so glad to introduce you to Pink Haven. It's a network of activists and organizations working to help trans and gender-expansive people who are fleeing the most dangerous states in the United States. We've been supporting them from their very founding. They actually reached out to us because of our CAPAS program, which is a congregational support program that we have for congregations providing asylum support for asylum seekers. And Pink Haven was aware of this networking work we had done and reached out to partner with us. Our most recent grant to them supported travel subsidies, security, staffing, because that's what they told us they needed. We spoke with them before the election and were able to move this money immediately after the election, which we knew would mean more risk and more danger to the people in their community. From its very beginnings, UUSC, as you heard, has worked in support of people who are forced to flee their homes because their very identity is criminalized, asylum seekers, and internally displaced people in Hungary, in Syria, in Mexico, in Ukraine, the Pacific, in Bangladesh, and many other places. And now, UUSC works with internally displaced people in the United States of America. This year, we are distributing over $1 million in protection and crisis grants to organizations most impacted by the administration's attacks. We're also working coalition to resist and push back against the efforts of the administration to destroy civil society organizations and block progressive action for inclusion and social justice. We've joined in legal action against the freezing of funding and the dismantling of USAID, providing an amicus brief in that suit, illustrating the deep and devastating impacts of these freezes on UUSC partners around the world. You may have also seen that we've established a resistance network, our UUSC Resistance Network, to gather people together to create a powerful network of advocacy, both on the federal and at the United Nations as well. I hope you'll sign up. It's easy to do on our website. We need you to be part of a large voice of resistance to the harmful and hateful and policies that are coming out of Washington. Together, we can play bridge and eat pie and hold a demonstration and fill a hall. We can even fill the General Assembly Hall of the United Nations, like the Pacific Island students fighting climate change did. That's the last story I want to share this morning. I'll try to do it as quickly as I can, and join me in Connections, and I can tell you more. There are lots of updates. In 2019, 23 students at the Law University of the South Pacific had an assignment. Their assignment was to come up with a proposal for a legal strategy to address the impacts of climate change. These are students in the South Pacific, many of whom are already facing losing their homes because of climate change. So they thought, well, let's just go to the UN and let's tell the UN that they need to get the Court of Justice, International Court of Justice, to pass an advisory opinion creating a framework for accountability for climate change. Sounds good, right? 23 law students from the Pacific. Let's go to the UN. Well, we were lucky to be one of their first partners. We helped them with credentials to visit the UN. We paid for their way to go to the International Climate Conference, where they met lots of other groups and received funding from much larger organizations than UUSC. We were together with them in Boston in October of 2022, 2021, hearing about their vision and their bold idea that they were just going to go to the United Nations and get the United Nations to take this action. And I have to tell you, I did not believe it was possible. I could not see the new world they dreamed. I knew, though, that they were already making the world better, telling their stories, helping people understand the impact of the climate crisis, even if the resolution never made it to General Assembly at the United Nations. Do you know how the story ends? It was March 2023. The nation of Vanuatu brought the resolution to the General Assembly to call on the International Court of Justice to issue this advisory opinion, and their resolution passed by unanimous consent. So much of the world is not just or good or pulling toward the light. We, though, my friends, can be deliberate in our part, accepting our own incompleteness so that we can make blessing and healing and light real. May it be so. Amen.
Stories of partnership and hope to us this morning. We come now to our offering, which is not just a way of supporting our church and its mission financially. In fact, it's a relatively small portion of our operating budget. Much more comes from the ongoing giving of our members and friends. But what it is an opportunity each Sunday to embody and to participate in partnership, in interdependence, in solidarity for the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism here in Rochester. And shared in the spiritual practice of generosity, we share half of what we collect with a partner organization. And of course, this morning, that partner is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And what I want to emphasize is that the amazing partnership work that they do is only real because people like us make it possible with our financial support. So we're going to have the collection in a moment, but I invite you to give generously to that, and I also invite you to sign up, to become part of the Resistance Network, to become a member of the UUSC, to make financial support of the service committee a regular part of your own spiritual practice of generosity and your own relationships of partnership and solidarity. And I will be doing so for the first time today, not just because my own beloved minister invited me into doing it, but because the work is so important and so transformative, as we have heard today. Because they are a long-standing vehicle for Unitarian Universalist values all over the world, and because I want their ability to defend human rights to expand and grow. So I hope you'll join me in becoming a member of UUSC today, and if you are able to join, you should know that gifts of $150 or more from individuals are eligible to be matched dollar for dollar by a generous grant from the UU congregation at Shelter Rock. But for now, the offering. You can give through our Church Center app by following the QR code that will be on the screen in a moment and select Share the Plate as the fund. You can text plate and the amount you would like to give to 84321 to give by text, and you can also give in the offering baskets that will now be passed. In the spirit of abundance and generosity and solidarity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
Today's offertory comes from the composer Olafur Arnalds. He is Icelandic, and the title of the piece is called Saman, which in Icelandic means coming together or doing something in unison. The piece expresses ideas of unity and connection. In Persian, Saman also can be interpreted as calm or a place of solace. So this is Saman by Olafur Arnalds.
Church doesn't end just because worship is coming to a close. Opportunities for partnership and connection abound after worship. We've got the Inquiry series in room 119, just around that way in the hallway, as I mentioned. We've got the Legacy team offering a Plan Your Own Funeral series, a funeral event. Plan Your Own Funeral event. Nature-based spirituality is gathering. I'll be with the Soul Matters facilitators in the workroom. Reproductive justice ministry is gathering. Upstairs, the Buddhist fellowship is gathering. Parenting Matters is happening. Radical self-care for these times, if that is what you need, is upstairs. This is what democracy looks like, our protest and organizing group that is emerging in these weeks. Is meeting, and as said, Reverend Mary Catherine Morin will be in the Gilbert Hall with UUSC, resisting fascism yesterday and today. So I hope you will find a place in connection, a place for solidarity, a place to embody and live out our interdependence and our mission. Please join me now and rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able for the closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment. Please remain standing and join in the unison words to extinguish our chalice as Chris extinguishes the light for us. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Benediction this morning from UUA President, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. Love expects nothing less of us than the rebuilding of this struggling and broken world. Sometimes what we know of love and justice pushes us in ways we never expected. And sometimes the need to bear such love into the world is heartbreakingly large. It is in those moments that we most need one another, most need beloved community, and most need reminding and solidarity, connection and care. With thanks for this connection and this care, may we go in peace and do good in the world.